today at 10:04 a.m. This is, I think, our second meeting where we had our quarterly schedule of meeting the last Wednesday in January, April, and so on. And so we'll call the meeting to order at 10:04 a.m. We're on Zoom, but we're not a formal Brown Act committee, so I'll just we won't do a roll call for each of these. I'll just ask for a consensus. And so is there a consensus to approve the agenda? Does anybody object to approving the agenda? And I hear no objection, so we'll move forward. We have the minutes of the October 27th Disaster Council meeting. Those were distributed prior to the meeting. Is there any objection to approving those minutes?
Just one comment.
Okay.
Bob Roper.
Yes.
There were some items in the minutes that had follow-up reports that aren't on the agenda today.
Okay.
I didn't know how you were going to address those.
Yes, let me see. Anyone in particular? We had a couple items that we were working on scheduling at a future meeting. I think there's, well, any item in particular?
Just the status of the emergency signs.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Okay.
So we are going to give an update on that under the roundtable updates.
Okay.
So we'll have an update on that. And then the other one that was a follow-up item was coordinating a drill. And that is also, that's item C on the agenda.
Right. Okay.
So if we will update those during the meeting. So, all right. Any objection to the minutes? Hearing none, we'll consider those approved. We have public communication, public comments on the agenda. I don't see anybody from the public to comment. Okay, I think there's a couple of people I can't quite see. So if anybody does want to comment, you can use the raise hand function at this time. And we'll give a couple seconds here. I don't see any public comments, so we'll move forward to the discussion and action items. And so I'll go ahead and kick this off. The first item on today's agenda is is consideration of a City of Ojai evacuation plan. The recommendation on this item would be that the Disaster Council consider a recommendation to develop an evacuation plan. So we're going to give a report, a brief report on evacuation plans, and then ask the Disaster Council to recommend whether the City of Ojai should and the City Council should approve moving forward with an evacuation plan at this time. And so in the, briefly, we've talked about an evacuation plan several times over the years. I think it probably comes up at some point in each Disaster Council meeting or close to each Disaster Council meeting. We've always talked about how, this most likely scenario in a fire is that things are going to change rapidly and we'll have to adjust and it's difficult to put that into a firm plan. But and so one of the things that we've done as staff is we've kind of stayed in touch with other cities and particularly cities that we knew had similar disaster related issues to the City of Ojai. And we've been watching some of the plans that have been developed in some of these cities. We recently obtained a copy of Malibu's plan from their emergency services coordinator. And so that was the plan that was included in the packet for this meeting. We reviewed this plan and we've reviewed a few. And one of the things that we as staff really liked about this plan is it's a relatively simple plan. It's 13 pages. We've seen evacuation plans that are hundreds of pages that are just, too unwieldy, I think, to really be useful. This evacuation plan is 13 pages and it includes kind of just, key information for residents. It includes how the communication will work in an emergency. What sources to look for communication, what organizations are involved in in emergency response and evacuation. And if on page 5 of that plan, you'll notice similar to us, but actually even a little more complicated, Malibu's plan has all the different agencies that are involved: the city of Malibu, Caltrans, CHP, which all those are, for us, it's Ojai, Caltrans, CHP, Ventura County Sheriff's Department, the County Department of Public Works. But even on top of that, Malibu's got the issue of they also have LA County Sheriff's Department and LA Santa Monica PD and some other agencies. And so they deal with a lot of that cross coordination like we would do. And so I thought in their plan, they put together a pretty simple plan, making that complicated process as simple as possible, where they have the key organizations involved and the best contact numbers for those organizations. They have where information is available from those organizations and how to find it during an emergency. And then a couple of key issues we've talked about here in Ojai is they have things like the shelter in place or the evacuation center locations, so that that's clear and that the public clearly knows where to go in a disaster. They also have safe refuge areas, which is similar to something we've been working on. And one of the things we've talked about is having large animal evacuation areas, and that's something that could be included similarly in that plan. And so we reviewed this plan, and I think out of 13 pages, it actually only has 2 or 3 that are actually really focused on the maps and the routes, and they laid those evacuation routes out as here's basically available routes, and depending on the situation, we'll have to use one of these routes. And so I think their plan is actually a pretty simple, common sense plan that would work. Something similar would work for Ojai. And so I have met with Chief Rivera. Like I said, he's not going to be able to attend, but I met with Chief Rivera, and we also met John McNeil and I met with Fire and Captain Monday, and we talked about having this simple plan with the focus of having a communication tool with the public for these types of situations, and something that we can hand out to people at disaster drills, or that we can take out and disperse to people. And I think that the city, the Sheriff's Department, and Fire are on board with a simple plan similar to what Malibu's doing. But the question today would be whether the Disaster Council agrees that this type of plan would be appropriate for Ojai, useful for Ojai, and any feedback related to that. And so with that, that's the staff report, but I'll open it up to anybody who wants to comment on that. So I see Mayor Sticks, yes.
Thank you, James. Well, James, just a giant thank you, because it's been said that it cannot be done, and you are doing it. So much gratitude to you, and of course, everyone, staff, OMA, for working on this. So thank you. And it sounds beautiful. And getting Soul Park as a spot, kudos, James, because we could put the whole town in there. So that is giant. So thank you so much for working this out and working together.
And we have so everybody's in the loop on that. We have submitted to the county the request to utilize Soul Park Golf Course in the parking lot in particular, and they are reviewing that request at this point. But so that would be delineated in the evacuation plan. So,
fingers crossed.
Yeah. Councilmember Wyrick.
Yeah, just ditto to what the mayor said. Thanks a lot for getting us this far. I'm concerned about the staff time involved in modifying this document. I know you're really pressed in that regard. I was wondering if I have two items to mention. That's the first one. Then I have a second one. What is your thinking about the resources that you may need to move this document into, modify it. And,
Yeah.
that's, and how you're going to circulate that. This is the protocols for getting this modified.
Yeah, that's a good question. We talked a little bit about this. I think there's two people that I'm going to rely on, but we also talked about needing to have some stakeholder meetings and things like that too. So, this is not something we just want to like throw together and approve without, meeting with stakeholders. And so I think two people that we're going to use pretty heavily, and this opportunity gives me a chance to introduce one, is Robin Godfrey, who's on this meeting, is our events and public information coordinator, which is a new position that we created right before COVID. And then since there were no events for quite a while, we hadn't filled it until recently. But Robin is going to be part of the process in coordinating the public any of the public meetings we have, or helping to get the communication and all that. So it will take some of my time, some of Robin's time, and then also I think I hope I'm not springing it on him. I think John, we agreed that you would help with that. So I don't want to. Okay. So John McNeil also is generous enough to volunteer some of his time to help put this together. So I think it'll be between the three of us doable. So.
Well, we're certainly loading up Robin really quickly.
Yeah, she's gonna have to start keeping some lists, I think.
Yeah, and thank you, John, very much. My second question is, I brought this up at council meeting last night, and I think this council should consider recommending to the city council and for staff to develop a proposal to do a proper, credentialed fire propagation modeling to provide information we need to really nail down some details. In other words, my thinking is that we could connect exactly what we need to do under a different broadly defined wind weather conditions in terms of fire propagation modeling, and also in terms of looking at our fire map. Would provide a findings to allow us to make proper use of let's say if we wanted to designate the entire city, if it showed that that we should be designating the entire city as a high hazard zone, that would also provide a backup for implementing those findings in other arenas. So I just want to make that proposal that we whether that should be a recommendation of this disaster council as part of this developing this plan.
Any feedback on that? Oh, Bob, do you have any comments on that?
Yeah, I think we need to do that, Bill, but I think that's about, so far down the road. I don't know if any of you know any people that got burned out in the Wilsey fire. I do. I've had a number of people I need to advise on how to, get the insurance going, what they had, where the problems were. And, the most important thing is they didn't know anything. They didn't know where to go,
That's
how
why
to
I
go.
think we should consider doing this and at least get a proposal, explore a proposal, and see if it is something we could get done fairly expeditiously.
And my concern for more than a quarter of a century is we don't get things out the other end. What I would hope we would do is take this Malibu report, condense it in half, pull those half dozen most important things out of here immediately, put something together that we can get to the people. The large animal problem was a mess with the horse trailers and people flowing all over the place. Come up with some designated areas, look at the most important things first. The phones didn't work, the fire lines went down, the cell towers went down, all those useful telephones, numbers did not work. So, if you want to talk to some people, and Robin, hi, I'm Bob Daddy, how are you? You want to get a couple of people, then maybe we can talk to a couple of people that got burned out, that live here, that are now here in Ojai, that were there. And we need to take care and we need to fill into those things where they didn't have. So people don't know still. We don't have road signs up that you go to the emergency radio. They don't listen to the radio station. We don't tell them on the radio station. You know, we don't put snippets in. I hate to go to just knowing how this community doesn't work. I don't want to go to a big mass public meeting and everybody gets to throw everything in. And 5 years later, we're still talking about what we're not going to do. I think there's a number of things, which is the routes. I would like us to take Malibu, like I say, move it down to 6 pages, get the routes, the shelter in place, get the notification, and then get the, you know, severity. You have 3 severities. This is an advisory. This is a warning. This is get the hell out of town, or whatever. Come up with those things first and get that to people and let them know we're working on it. It took the city of Santa Rosa a half an hour to release an emergency message. By that time, the Walmart burned down. They lost the 8-inch line. There was no water in a single unit in town. The high school burned down. The hospital burned down. So we had no water. We lost 8,000 homes in Santa Rosa. So you really have to put the message out first before anything else. People have got to have some kind of an idea that they do something. And if we get Devil's Gorge goes up, you can't have the people from Oakview trying to get to Nordoff. That road will be closed. The last 2 fires we had closed Powerhouse Turn. People are not leaving by that avenue. They couldn't leave north and they couldn't go over 150. So, you know, you got to have some kind of a way, and everybody's got a radio in their car just about, or a neighbor's got a radio. And that's about the only way you're going to mass communicate, because we're down to less than 30 people that you can 911 reverse dial as far as landline telephone go. And like I say, when you lose your cell towers and you lose your other things, your phone's not working and your cell phones aren't working. People have to have an idea. And I know I've gotten some big pushback from some council people. They don't want to have the little tsunami signs on the side of the road that go, this is an evacuation route. But, you know, right now we don't have a plan. People don't know where they're supposed to shelter, drop off animals, which routes to take. So I would hope before we get all of this other information, we get them a little bit of information about what's going on first. So anyhow, that's my 2 cents.
Thank you. And Bob Roper, I see your hands up.
Okay. I can support doing a plan. One thing I would just ask is that it's coordinated with county OES, because the city has to interact with the county. The one thing the disaster council may want to do is ask county OES to do a demonstration of the software program that they've been beta testing. It's called Zone Haven. And they could do a demonstration over a Zoom link at the next meeting or a special meeting, so that you can see the features and how that's used, because it's a very dynamic tool and it's taking pretty much the majority of all the emergency management markets out there right now.
Yeah, that's cool. That might tie in with, we were talking about trying to do an EOC drill at the next meeting. So we were going to ask OES to participate in that, so we can actually coordinate to have them do that demonstration at that point too. So,
okay. And for Bill, if you'd like more information about fire propagation studies, just drop me an email. We can get together. I'll walk you through what that does.
Okay, and then maybe you and I could develop a proposal.
Okay.
If we need to get something formally done. Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Cool. All right, John, I see your hand.
Yeah, so I definitely support the idea to get this plan, and listening to both, Bob Daddy in particular. I mean, I think he justified it more than once in his responses, and I hopefully it would satisfy Bob with the fact that we're actually moving forward with trying to draft something. I think it's really encouraging to hear both mayor and council members to hear that they're in full support of it. And I get it, because every meeting they go to, or seems like every discussion they have with the city, there's some component to an evacuation plan or some kind of disaster piece to it, right? So hopefully there's more than just the obvious benefit of educating and having a plan for not only our residents, but the tourists that come in on the weekends. That's a bulk of our population. So there's going to be some challenges, but again, back to Bob Daddy's point, to get something out fairly in a timely fashion, but keep it fairly simple so you can appeal to a broad audience, those that live here on a regular basis and those that just visit on a short-term basis, right? So, but I do think the key to it is coordinating with the key stakeholders, not everyone, because it can get, as you guys all know, too big a group trying to initiate the first draft of it can get a little confusing. But there is probably 5 or 6 primary stakeholders, and Bob Roper already mentioned, county OES and the county public safety agencies for sure, right? And even Chamber of Commerce for the tourist side of this, and and city representation, obviously. So, yeah, fully support it. The last piece I want to add, and I see Chris Stench is on the line, is the Fire Safe Council is getting ready to kick off a couple of projects that are going to enhance this initial draft that gets drafted. And I would look at it as maybe a living document that does get updated as new information comes in, and that could appeal to the mapping discussion. But really, the 2 projects that Chris has got going or getting ready to kick off this year is the fine scale risk mapping, and that County Fire is going to partner up with. And then really it's that wildfire vulnerability and evacuation assessment. Well, I mean, I'm going to just assume that there's going to be some good intel coming from both those projects that could enhance this document. So again, back to where I think the goals are is get it out as soon as we can, even if it's fairly brief and fairly generic, knowing that we will be adding to it as all this good information comes through. So that's just what I wanted to add to the conversation.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you. Mayor Sticks, I think your hand's up.
Yes, it is. Thank you, James. And I just want to echo, yes, communication is the most important thing at this point. So I'm super excited about that and getting on that and working with you, Robin. So great that you're here. And I'm a lifelong educator. I've taught 4th grade. I've taught every grade. So it's really got to be at the 4th grade level. And John, back to you. Message it simple. People can generally remember 3 things, especially when the information is new. So after about 30 seconds, people tend to drift off and are not listening anymore because it's too much. So really breaking it down and chunking the information in a timely way. So we're going to do a great job. I feel super confident about this. So thank you all. Thank you everybody here for working together on this.
Thank you. To John's point, I'm sorry, I see a hand up. Councilmember Wyrick.
Yeah, I just in terms of procedure, I think the sooner, we definitely need to move forward, and I would assume that Robin could handle as drafts, as the modifications are made, and not every time there's a modification, but some sort of regular basis to circulate among the disaster council the state of the living document. Yep. As we're modifying it, and that we don't need to have meetings for commenting or helping to edit. And I just just if we kind of get a round after round, maybe every few weeks kind of thing, that would help move this along really quickly.
Yeah, I think that I was gonna kind of hit the same topic and follow up on what John said is kind of the strategy that we were thinking at this point was kind of get started with a simple draft, meet with, have a stakeholder meeting, or, maybe it's a couple stakeholder meetings, but with police, fire, OES, the city's departments, the Ventura County Public Works Department, the Chamber of Commerce to represent the business groups, the school district, because of the fact that Nordoff is our evacuation center, and Red Cross as kind of the key stakeholders, and if anybody has any additional, feel free to email me or mention them. But we would start with kind of those stakeholder meetings. Once we had a draft, get everybody's feedback, and then we could submit some drafts back to the disaster council and keep moving forward to try to get a solid draft by one of the next 2 disaster council meetings. So that's okay.
Hey, James.
Yes.
Just to follow up, since Chris is on, could we maybe get a brief, less than 5-minute, just kind of how he feels his efforts could tie into what we're talking about here? Because I think it would be helpful to hear it from this group.
Yeah.
At least I think it would be.
Yeah, thank you. And I actually I have the Fire Safe Council on the list for that meeting as well. So sorry about
Gotcha.
if I didn't say that. Chris, do you have are you able to give an update? I think you're on mute, but I don't see the mute sign.
Doesn't see mute. Yeah. Now you're on mute.
Now it says mute. Yeah.
Take it off.
I think Chris.
Okay.
I think if you click, I think you plugged in a microphone, and now you need to click the.
I got it. I got it. I thought I'd already done it, but when I hit the mute on that, it muted me on this. Okay. Well,
There goes the first 2 minutes.
Are fighting one another here. Under the CAL FIRE grant, we're starting the 2 projects John mentioned, the fine scale risk mapping, and the other one is the wildfire vulnerability and evacuation assessment. Now, all of the stakeholders that you're talking about are involved in this, including the Ventura County Transportation Commission, sheriffs, OES, the county fire. County fire is partnering with us on the mapping project. In fact, they have a significant cash match going into this. And those are being put together now. We'll be launching them probably in about 30 days after we get all the contractor, stuff done and everything else. But those are going to inform what you guys are talking about to a large degree, and quite a bit of money is being thrown at this. So we're looking at a project length of about 16 to 18 months, throwing about 800,000 at this. So, by all means, go ahead and do your stuff. But I do believe that we will have information that will inform what you guys are doing. And the very things you're talking about are in the scope of work that we have given for this grant. The other thing we're starting is the CWPP for Ojai. And that's also funded under SFA money, federal money. And that's going to be launched in about 30 days as well. So, or less. So that too, which incorporates everything doing in these other projects, incorporating all of that. So it should be a very robust CWPP, which won't be for just the city, but the entire Ojai Valley area. But so I'm just saying that work will inform what you guys are talking about. And I appreciate John bringing that up.
Hey, Chris, just a question. I know you're working with Patrick Maynard. I'm not sure if it was one or both of these projects or even a third project that speaks to the evacuation and sheltering and all the protective actions that could potentially go into the document we're discussing. Is that something separate or? No,
in the evacuation assessment, we're looking at TRAs, whether best can be maintained, what degree of infrastructure is necessary to do that. Flexible planning based upon, we're going to be doing match drop modeling and transportation modeling in this. So it'll be a pretty sophisticated assessment. So it should be, and then of course those will be available. And the fine scale risk mapping also comes down to a digital dashboard that's accessible by the public as well, and then the assessment is going to be tied into the same database. And along with that, of course, we were doing the database coming in off, a $900,000 structural hardening program coming into our area, the whole county, but we have a liaison assigned to our area for 3 years. So for 2 years. So that database is going to become pretty robust as we move through these projects. So, and this CAL FIRE grant is only a 2-year grant, not a 4-year. So it's going to happen. Our project work will be done 16 to 18 months into this. So and that database will be accessible. And we have other partners coming in, like help of Ojai to help with AFN issues, and other participants as well. So it should be a robust database when we get done, and a plan out of that can be based upon that.
Nice.
Great, thank you. I see Betsy's hand up, and then Bob Daddy after that. So Betsy.
Thanks, James. I'm talkative today, aren't I? So I'm excited. So Chris, before you, I just want to thank you so much, and I'm really excited to share this information and work together. And I was wondering, is it possible to set up something where we can get reports regularly at council about the progress?
Sure. Well, under the Community Wildfire Protection Plan, of course, we owe reports to the city, which we would give anyhow, but we owe it anyhow under the grant agreement for the amount because that's the one of the matches to that thing. But yes, we'll be updating regularly, not only through our site, but also through the paper. We'll report directly to the city and county, the county fire. So all along, this thing will be documented, and reports will be, updates will be given on a regular basis.
And it'd be great. I mean, back to communication and Robin, advertising that and encouraging people to come to the council meeting to hear you and see what's happened would be really wonderful. So that'd be great.
Yes, and under the evacuation, under the total CAL FIRE grant, which is part of this wildfire collaborative in the county here, there will be a number of town halls put up for education, generally speaking, and inform people of the progress of this grant, among other things. That's being managed by RCD. And then in our CWPP project, we will have 6 public meetings during this time. So that will, 4 of those virtual, in person, and 2 virtual, and further engage the public because that's necessary in a CWPP, hence the term Community Wildfire Protection Plan. And then that'll also give everybody an update at the same time. So, and we do intend a monthly column, and we're also having a dedicated web portal for all of these projects.
Excellent, great. And then we can report back about what's happening, because back to communication, often people don't know what's happening. So they assume nothing's happening. So then we can tell them what's happening.
Yeah, and we very much are encouraging community involvement, public participation in the process. So the web portal is being set up so people can not only keep track of what we're doing, but also give input into it. Plus our actual meeting, town hall meetings.
Okay, and just thank you so much. Really grateful to you. Really appreciate it. And then just circling back for a second, then I'll hand it off to Bob. Just back to what you had suggested, Bill. I hear what you're saying, and I appreciate that. But really circling back to Bob Roper, we got to start. We have to start with the high priority items first. So that's, I support what you said, Bob Roper. So thank you. Thank you. Bye.
So we'll go, well, I'm guessing it's in response. So can we go to Councilmember Wyrick, and then we'll go to Bob Daddy, who had his hand up earlier.
Yeah, I don't view these as mutually exclusive. There's some other advantages to having some proper fire propagation modeling. I'll just talk with Bob about what we might want to share with you, Mayor, and then bring to council in terms of what resources might be needed to accomplish that. But there's no exclusivity, do one thing. I don't think we have to do one thing before another. We can multitask.
Okay, thank you. Thanks, Bill.
Okay, Bob?
I would like to see the city in the next 2 weeks notify every business, especially those businesses that are hotels, and notify them and ask the hotels what their emergency evacuation plans are for their guests. And I don't know how many of you have been here long enough for this. CERT did a great job for the earthquake preparedness, where we all got a yellow license plate size card that we were supposed to put in the window of our business. I think every business should have that in the city. Even when we have new employees, if we have a nice blue sign that says emergency information, AM radio 1600, whatever it is, 1030, then at least every single business that has out of area people. John is right. People know Soul Park from Soul Golf Course. The 875,000 tourists a year we get don't. And if we have a disaster, what is the night clerk at CASA? What is he going to do to give people information about what they should do when we have one of these 70-mile-an-hour wind event storms? And the only thing we're really going to be able to do is have that emergency radio station where everybody can get the same information, because things will be fluid, things will change, people need to go different places. I think the majority of people are going to shelter in home, but when this happened the last time, the inn sent everybody out. They closed it, they did their own evacuation. I think you folks need to control that narrative and let them know, hey, tell your guests this, we'll get back to you this, monitor this. And the reason I tell you to ask them for a plan, because they don't have a plan, they don't know they need a plan, they're not even thinking about it. And when we need it, it will be way in the past.
Yeah,
So,
I was gonna say, Bob, the thing about asking them right now is I already know what the answer is. You know, they're not gonna know. They're gonna say that when an emergency happens, they'll look for the sirens, or the the officer on the street directing traffic is probably the answer right now. And so it is one of the goals for us. You know, John and I talked about this, that one of my goals is, once we have the evacuation plan, we put together a little half sheet document and give a stack of them to all the hotels and tell them to laminate one and have it at the front counter. So that is one of the goals that we're trying to work towards with this, of having that simple information of Nordoff High School is the evacuation site, and here it is. And if you have animals, here you go here instead. So,
will we have live real-time radio transmission with updates?
we have that capability. I think, Robin and I have talked about one of my goals now that we have our public information position is using that radio station more frequently and doing audio recordings of our press releases and things like that. But so we have that capability. We're still a ways away from I think where we're able to launch it. It's something we have to work towards. So.
Okay.
Betsy, is your hand up again?
Could we get the chamber involved in that, reaching out? Because that's what chamber's all about. And also, when I hear 2 weeks, can staff do this, it makes my heart pound a little bit, because I know how much work you all have and how much that's a tight turnaround. So that would be great if we could.
Yeah, we'll include the chamber and then make sure that the businesses too are in the loop as we move it forward.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else on this topic? I think I believe there's a consensus to move forward with this. The next step would be, I'd put a consent item on the city council agenda to get the approval to start spending staff time to develop it. And so today, I guess I'll ask, does anybody object to moving forward with it? And if so, I guess speak now or hold your peace. So I sense consensus to move forward. So we'll move forward with that, with the disaster council recommendation.
How about some applause?
Well, the work starts now. Item 2 on the agenda, and I think we've kind of hit bits and pieces, but we wanted to have a regular agenda item where we go round table to all we went through the list earlier. There's so many partners on disaster preparation and response. So we want to give an opportunity at each meeting for an update from each. And so I mentioned PD, Chief Rivera is not available, so we'll ask him for one next time. Fire, I think, do you have any update for the group?
Yeah, James, I'm going to have Celine Moomey from our Wildland Division discuss what kind of projects and ongoings are going on within the city of Ojai and also the Ojai Valley. So I'll let Celine discuss that.
Thank you.
Hello, everyone. Thank you. I've had prepared a little PowerPoint for the Ojai Valley MAC. Can I share my screen?
Yeah, I think so, but let me see if I might have to give you that ability. Give me a second here.
Okay, if not, I can talk about it.
You can try it in the meantime. If let me see. I don't see that it's blocked, but it's
okay. Let's see.
There we
How's
go.
is that coming up?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, we can see it.
All right, I'll skip over some of this because it was really for people who don't know kind of why we do fuels reduction. So I'll just skip over some of this. But my name's Celine Mooney. I'm the pre-fire specialist from Ventura County Fire Department from the Wildfire Aviation Division, and I work in the Vegetation Management Program. I went over the fire behavior triangle. I'm not going to do that. I'll kind of go through this is why we do it is just to reduce the overall fire behavior so we can get in there and work. These are our partners that we work with. We talked about the Ojai Fire Safe Council, who has that project going, and then also projects in the work. They have a grazing project that they want to do that will encompass the Ojai Valley, which will be a fuels reduction project. Ventura County Resource Conservation District, which we talked about, their project coming up, and they have that fine scale mapping project, but then they also have that large education component part of that, and they will have inspectors, or not inspectors, people who come out and do home ignition zone assessments for people that want to do them. And the crew who just recently received a grant to do some chipper days or roadside chipping, where people can take their defensible space vegetation that they've gathered, and the crew will come around and chip it for them. And Ojai Valley Land Conservancy is doing a lot of arundo removal in the valley. And Fuel Reduction Works, which is a newer nonprofit, and actually Tom is on this call too. They will be working on some eucalyptus, Mexican fan palm removal up in the foothill area and Arbolada. The Los Padres National Forest, we partner with them. And we have a project that I'll go over in this slide that is the fuel break up above shelf on the Los Padres National Forest. And then the city of Ojai, your work in Stuart Canyon that you're doing is a great fuels reduction and restoration project, making us more fire resilient. Talked about agriculture. We have our citrus that creates a buffer, and then the schools, mostly Thatcher and Upper Campus Ojai Valley, that do a lot of fuels reduction up there and grazing. And then larger landowners that have their own projects and grazing that they do, and then the homeowners that do their own defensible space. Talked about this. And this was just kind of our methods that we use. We'll use cut, stack, and pile burning. And this is actually a picture from Upper Ojai when we first started the project up there, our Caesar fuel buffer. And this is over Matilha Canyon. This is just a chipper day that we did. And then this is some roadside chipping. Prescribed fire we've done in the past, and we're working on some projects not in the Ojai Valley, just because we had the Thomas fire that came through here. And if you burn too often, it can cause type conversion, which we don't want to do because the chaparral has a lot of value. So some areas we might want to type convert, but not there. Prescribed herbivory, we use this in the Upper Ojai project that we have, and then also that grazing project that the Fire Safe Council is working on with our local grazers. Masticating is another method that we use, and this is actually pretty light on the land. It helps with erosion because you leave the vegetation in place, but kind of crush it down so you're breaking up that continuity or the volume of it, keeping closer. And we do a lot of mowing valley, and our fire road maintenance, we do a lot of fire road maintenance, bulldozers and graders. This is our Upper Ojai project. This is Caesar Road right here. And this is our buffer that we maintain with prescribed herbivory or goats.
Is that program, is that relatively new? Is that the grazing program there? Is that
it's not new. The fire department has been using the grazing for, I would say, the last, I'm thinking 7 years.
Okay.
Something like that, 7, 8 years. Before my time, I've been here for a little over 5 years. Okay. Been doing it before that. This is that Krishnamurti Foundation property over off the 33. And this originally was a project that we did, well, the fire department did with cut, stack, and they did a little bit of pile burning, but chipping. And this year, the Ojai Valley Fire Safe Council and our local grazers did it with goats. Good project. This isn't really in the Ojai Valley. This is up Matilaha Canyon. This is a little shaded fuel break here. And then this is part of their temporary refuge area they used. And then I just have, well, it's all sideways. That wasn't like that the last time I had it in here. This is what we had as our shaded fuel break in here. And what we did was we weed whipped it, and then we limbed even that manzanita kind of up off the ground so that the fire wouldn't get in there and travel up into the canopy of the brush. And this is after the Thomas fire hit it. And as you can see, it worked really well. It just kind of crept through. Granted, there was no winds on this, but if I wish I would have gotten a picture of the other side that we didn't do any work on, because there was just nothing. Yeah. Just gone completely. So it did work. This shaded fuel break under the right conditions, even in the chaparral. And this is that project I was talking about up above Ojai here. And this is that fuel break road, or it's actually called the Community Defense Zone. And this goes all the way over here and then actually behind this knob and down over into Quail Ranch. And so this is a fuel break that we would use under the right conditions. You know, if we had the conditions in our favor, we could potentially fire off this. Arundo Dunax, which that giant reed that everybody knows about. And the reason why, I'm sure you all know why we go after this one, is it's changing the fire behavior in our riparian areas to where it's burning. Traditionally, it was someplace where we might even be able to make a stand in these riparian areas. We might be able to backfire off of them, or it would just slow the fire behavior so much that we could pick it up right there and in some spots in those riparian areas. And this Arundo Dunax, it burns so hot and so fast that it burns the native vegetation that would normally survive in there, just because it's not fire adapted to that kind of heat. And then that gets killed off, and then this Arundo sprouts up really fast and outcompetes any of that vegetation that would be growing back. We have a project with the Ojai Valley Land Conservancy. They're going to manage this project for us for some Arundo removal. Right here, this is the, as you know, the Ojai Valley Inn right here. And so there's just this bit right here. This is all mapped Arundo right here. And the reason why we're going for these areas is because we have a permit that we're using from Watershed that they're allowing us to utilize for this work.
That's very cool. That Arundo on Creek is, I think that's one that we've talked about at Disaster Council several times of being a priority. So very cool to hear that. So.
And then this is under Baldwin Road. We're going after this Arundo here and this Arundo up here. And again, the reason why we're not branching out is because this is just the environmental permits that we have access to right now. The Ojai Valley Land Conservancy is going for a grant to where that they can do the environmental or the environmental impact report for the entire watershed. They've already mapped it, and so they're trying to get a grant for an EIR. So if they do that, then it will enable funding for all of that removal, potentially.
Nice.
Let's see. What else? I think I covered all the grants we're coming for. Oh, and also that's one thing I wanted to cover is that Soul Park, all those dead trees in there. The Parks is going for a grant to remove all those dead trees in Soul Park.
Okay, that might be one I might try to pick your brain on offline. I actually just got a request this morning that I may bring to the city council to partner on a grant to replace those trees. So there may be some partnership or something there. So
Okay, that's all I have.
thank you. The Arundo removal on Creek, do you have like a general time frame for that? I'm sure we'll get questions and everything about it.
Well, that Arundo removal is, they'll start on it as soon as they can.
Okay.
We are getting into nesting season in that riparian area. They could still do work in there. They just have to have a biological monitor out there every day when they're doing work to make sure they're not disturbing any of those nests. So that could be a little, a delay in the work, but it looks like definitely they'll start. If they don't start before this, it'll be October.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
James, I have a question for Celine.
Yep, Councilmember Wire, go ahead.
Celine, on the Arundo matter, are we still being frustrated in any way by private property owner denial of access for Arundo clearance or eradication?
That's what I hear from the Ojai Valley Land Conservancy, is that they do have some landowners that do not want to participate in the Arundo removal. We don't have access to their land.
And given the public safety, the larger public safety threat that represents, I have brought up this issue in the past of whether the Ventura County Fire District could be looking at an ordinance update, because private property owners are they have to meet responsibility standards, and I'm just wondering, it would seem like, and again, I brought this up in the past, that we have requirements on private property owners for brush clearance standards. And why could not that also include, at the very least, if not removal of or access for removal, at least treating it as brush clearance rather than just a distance from structures, to say, you've got to at least get that fuel load down, even though you're not you're denying access for eradication. This has been an issue with me for a long time, and private property ownership includes responsibility for public safety in terms of what's on your property, and it would seem to me this is an area that the Ventura County Fire District could look at in terms of an ordinance update.
And I will let Chief Monday address that one.
Yeah, that's a challenging one, Bill, because we already have our ordinance that we do for fire hazard reduction. If and when that brush is close enough to structures, adjoining structures, or anything that we deem as a structure per our ordinance. But just to say that you have Arundo doesn't necessarily mean that it's dangerous. Yes, all fuels are dangerous. There's a lot of homes out there that have large brush piles of natural vegetation on their property that would equate and be in the same pond of wanting it to be removed. So we can't go out and police everybody just because they have fuels on their property, just because of what they are and what they mean, if they're not posing any threat per our ordinance on how we deem them as being hazardous or dangerous.
Well, that's what I'm talking about, is modifying the ordinance, because what I heard from Celine is, in fact, these Arundo stands do represent a threat in terms of changing fire propagation and making it more problematical to use stream courses as ways of slowing down flame fronts. So that is a public hazard. And I guess I know under the current ordinance, I'm talking about exploring modifying the ordinance to include that reality, represent that reality. That's what I'm asking about.
Okay. No, all I can do is I'll talk to our fire marshal and see what it takes to change that ordinance. It's a county ordinance that is adopted by us,
Right.
So all I can do is ask.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. So I was gonna go around a couple partners, but I'll jump in real quick there with because it actually relates to kind of our update. Is you know, from the city, there's two things, and one is related to this, which is we had updated our ordinance with a couple of things a couple of years ago, and then we had a council item a couple months back where we talked about doing more outreach on brush clearance and things like that. And so I can report out that in the last 3 months, we created new notices that we've started to use in the city that inform people of issues related to if it has you know, a form with boxes on it that will check if somebody has leaves and you know, leaf accumulation in their gutters, leaf accumulation on their roofs. There's a few other categories, substantial accumulation of any flammable material in their front yard, you know, piles of mulch that are sitting or piles of leaves, things like that. And so we created a form, and we have our code enforcement person going around town and just on weekends hitting a couple streets each week and handing those out, just encouraging people to you know, to take care of that now before the fire abatement period starts closer to April. And so we have actually distributed about 40 of those at this point. And I had not received any complaints until my meeting at 9 o'clock today, where one of the people in the meeting happened to get one of those letters and wasn't one of those forms and wasn't very happy about it. But so far 40 forms out, 40 notices out, and only one complaint. So hopefully that'll help make sure that people are you know, addressing those issues and not letting them build up and build up and build up. So that's one of the new programs we've recently done as a city. The second update I wanted to give more from our Public Works Department is the Stuart Canyon project update, which Celine mentioned. That was our fire. We were trying to reduce fire risk and then also restore habitat. And so I think, Alma, if you're still on the call, I think we just finished the last of the removal portion. And then can you kind of confirm that and then tell us what the next step is on that project?
Sure. So phase 2 of the invasive tree removal has been completed, and that's the northern section of Stuart Canyon. In addition, they've already planted new plantings on the northern portion of phase 2, and we're working on getting temporary irrigation installed to get the plants started and so that they root. That's pretty much it. We have a few volunteer events coming up to help with weeding and watering and more planting. So there's 2 coming up in February and 2 in March.
Yeah, thank you. Those volunteer events, yeah, those have actually gotten pretty good groups out to help out. So we'll do some PR on those too. So
okay. So
those are the 2 updates from the city on kind of big fire related projects we're working on. Chris, I know you gave the update as a part of the last item. Did you want to add anything during the roundtable update?
Not really. We'll be putting more information out as we progress. Right now, we're working on 2 grants actually for the Grazing Program. So we'll see what happens there. But they're pretty big asks to scale the program up, and ultimately we're looking at a target, not to be paid for by these grants, but we're ultimately looking at a target in addition to what the Ventura County Fire does. We will be looking at trying to reach a target of annually about 3,000 acres in this so-called corridor. And the purpose of this corridor is what we're calling a wildfire intensity reduction zone. So it's not a fuel break, but it's there to reduce the intensity in terms of rate of spread and flame height, and also improve firefighter access. So that corridor is, what we're asking for is funds to detail map that, streamline the CEQA, et cetera, to reach that annual goal of vegetation treatment of that scale. We have other areas in mind. That doesn't include areas like the KFA property and stuff, which will be the subject of community-supported grazing in that sense, and not so much in this, what we're calling the corridor. But anyways, that's what we're up to. So I don't have anything else to add right now, but we will be giving plenty of updates as we launch these projects and move through them. And of course, the city is obviously a key partner in the CWPP, but also in all the other projects as well. So, I believe John is going to be joining some of the working groups on this, which will be a big help to us. And Celine, of course, will be dragged into everything. So, because that's your lot in life, Celine. So, obviously, and of course, she's also our CAL FIRE liaison, which gives her another role to play. So, but yeah, so a lot of the stakeholders that you guys are referring to are the same ones we're dealing with. So, we're also starting to coordinate with Santa Barbara as well. On both the grazing and other matters. So with that, and we're also coordinating with Andy at RCD on this Prescribed Burn Association. So we're working together on that. We were going to actually combine that in the CAL FIRE grant, but the RCD decided not to do that because of the delay in their perceived permitting process. So, but we will be looking at so-called stacked projects going forward. So obviously we're part of the same Ventura County Wildfire Collaborative. So on every project, whether we apply together or not, we work together on all of them. So I just want everybody to be aware there's a very high level of collaboration and coordination that's going on, and it's only going to improve as far as I can see as additional funding comes, and the whole way we do this gets fine-tuned. And we're stretching into Santa Barbara as well. So in terms of regional coordination, and the existing CAL FIRE grant that we have with the collaborative will end with a regional summit, 3-day. It's a large event, so that'll be a great opportunity for everybody to participate. There'll be other surrounding counties coming in, so that's going to be a large event to really get, I think it's going to be really helpful to everybody involved. And then the summits, we have a planning summits, which are already funded in the Grazing Program. They'll be pulling in more stakeholders. First one is more of a hardcore planning team, and then the second summit, and then we'll have regional, and then we'll have continuing summits of people, like where we are now and what's happening, right? And where are we going with this as we attempt to scale this up. So thank you for the opportunity to give that.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Chris.
And thank you, Celine. I just have to bust in. Thank you so much. You're amazing. It's so wonderful to have you here. Great presentation.
Yeah, thank you.
I believe she's been cloned, actually, because I don't know if she can be all places at one time. So,
yeah.
Or parallel universe or something. I don't know. You can explain it.
Does I think those were the big ones. Normally we'd call PD, but Chief Rivera is out today. Does anybody have anything to add on item B? And if not, we'll move on. Bob?
I'm not sure if this is item B. Celine, thank you very, very much. You and I have had a lot of discussions over the years on that Arundo down there on Creek Road. I have three quick things to say. We have a partner that's going to help the community, not within the city, but help the community. And they're going to do Mexican fan palm eradication, removal, whatever we'd like to say. I would like to see on a city agenda soon the fact that the city needs to lead by example. All city rights of way and city property should immediately remove all Mexican fan palms because they are identified as an immense hazard. Second thing I would like to ask is that we consider removing our hazard start date. I've seen those May 1st signs up there all my adult life. Fire season's kind of all the time. Maybe we need to see if we can move that up another month or so and start those clearances early and give the people an earlier time, because we are season changing. And then for Mr. Wyrick, if you're still here, if you would like, I would be more than happy to join you and talk to Mr. Bennett about him coming up with some type of a law that will allow for at least the organizations responsible with removal to have access to the property if the private landowners won't do it. At least have a law where they can't prevent us from making the community safer. So those are my
okay.
things.
We'll work together on that. All right.
Thank you.
My hand up. I have to go,
Yep.
James, for another meeting. So thank you, everybody.
Sure. Thank you, Chris.
And keep up the good work. All right. Take care.
Thank you. So the last item, I think.
Hey, James.
Yeah.
I have got my hand up just to help.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, you're behind my Post-it note. Go ahead.
Just looked at for Bob Daddy in our fire hazard reduction day of May 1st. We've discussed moving that date around numerous times. What it is an ongoing, it's a year-round project for us. For our fire hazard reduction, it's just not a one-time clean your weeds, have them done by June 1st. It's a continuous program in the county, so it's not a one-time do it and don't do it. The reason why we don't want to start it so early is we want to get the biggest swath of homeowners, property owners to do their maintenance, to remove their hazard. And if we do it earlier, we tend to have regrowth, and a lot of it depending, on the year and what we get. So the sooner we start, we clean it, we get more rain in late April or May, and then those same property owners are cleaning their property again. And so we try to lessen the burden on the property owner so we get the greatest bang for our buck when we ask to have it done by June 1st. Typically rains are done by then, and they can get the completion of that fire hazard reduction done by then. But it is an ongoing project that doesn't stop just because it says June 1st.
Thank you. I feel like my computer is messing with me. It moved John behind my Post-it note now, and sure enough, I look and your hand's up. So
that's a good place for John.
So John,
Gary, you can mute now. Just two quick questions on follow-up. First one's for Alma. Where is the geographic break on the Stuart Canyon project between north and south?
I'd have to give you a map. Roughly, it's kind of where the demonstration garden is. If you were to take a line and follow it westward, I can send out a map that shows the different phases of the project.
Okay, yeah, no, that'd be great. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
And then the second question for Councilman Wyrick. I know in our last meeting we had discussion about the county potentially reopening the green waste facility. Is there any update on that?
James, I think you probably have the latest on that. We think we're making progress.
Yeah, we met with Supervisor Levere out on site and walked it with him and explained, it's like we explained kind of the unique issues that makes it really important here, like more important than I think some people would realize. And so we went out on site. Well, maybe that was right before Christmas, like December 15th or so, and we walked the site with Supervisor Levere. What we were told is that they are on their last round. The county was on its last round of review. That I think Supervisor Levere had checked with the staff, and they had said that they were waiting for one revision from the applicant, and when they get that revision, that they were going to expedite. So we got the sense that they're working on it. I think saying expedite, it's still, I would guess 6 months. I think he actually told us the time frame was probably 6 months.
But I think the supervisor did help us reduce some of the improvement or some of the construction requirements or support facility requirements that were a little unreasonable that the county planning people were demanding. And I think Matt, I think Supervisor Levere got them to back off on some of that to help move this along.
All right. Well, that sounds encouraging. Hey, I've got to go. I've got someone showing up at the house right now. So
Okay.
I'll catch up with you later, James, if I miss anything, and appreciate everyone.
For sure, thank you. So I'll get to the last item quickly because I know we're running out of time. The last item was actually pretty simple. We had talked previously about trying to actually have a disaster council meeting in the EOC with the Office of Emergency Services and Patrick Maynard there, and kind of have almost like a drill type situation. I think that the next meeting in April would be a good time to do that. So I'm proposing we do that at that meeting. And so as long, we don't need to get too deep into it. If everybody's up to meet at the EOC and have OES attend, then we'll proceed with that. So any objections to that, I guess, is the simplest way. Nope, don't see any. All right, so we'll plan to do that. And so we'll confirm that as we get closer. And so, so that's all we have on the agenda. So we will go ahead and adjourn at 11:15 a.m. So, all right.
Sorry, can I have a map of phase 1 and phase 2 if I can share my screen?
Well, John left, so let's just.
Oh, he left. Okay.
Yeah, let's just talk to him offline. So.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Thank you. All right.
Bye.
Thanks, everybody.
Everybody, wonderful progress.